guys, welcome to the Treasury Update Podcast Coffee Break Session, the show where we cover foundational Treasury topics and questions in about the same amount of time it takes you to drink your coffee. This is your host, Alexa, joined today again with Craig Jeffery, Managing Partner at Strategic Treasurer. Welcome back, Craig.
Good morning, Alexa.
So today we're going to continue with what are header accounts. So Craig, what are header accounts?
Well, from a North American perspective, I would say that's the naming convention used primarily by banking structures in Europe, and it's a method of cash mobilization or concentration where there's the top account where money flows up to or down from to the different operating accounts in the structure there. So they're quite synonymous with concentration accounts.
So you just said they're quite synonymous to the concentration accounts. So why do we have some accounts that are called header accounts and then some that are called concentration accounts?
I think there might be different views on this, but my view on this is that it's really more of a regional naming convention. Certainly header accounts, it seems like they all have a ZBA type structure to move money, physical movements through a ZBA up to or down from a header account, whereas concentration accounts typically have that, but sometimes they're, the concentration activity for some of it might be done manually. It's more of a geographical or regional naming preference. The other thing that's different is how this is usually illustrated or drawn. So when you draw a header account structure, let's say you have a header account, you have several collection-oriented accounts or disbursement-oriented accounts, or maybe some various other accounts sitting below this header account. The header account's usually drawn at the center top of the page, and the other accounts cascade down in a column on the left or a column on the right or multiple columns. That's how that's typically illustrated. In concentration systems, there's usually two standard drawings. One looks more like an hourglass where you have deposit accounts at the top, concentration account in the middle, and disbursement accounts on the bottom. So the sand flows down to the center and then falls down to the bottom of the hourglass, and your investment accounts or your sweep accounts would hang off the side of that concentration account. So that's one way of showing the concentration system. Others on the concentration side will show depository accounts on the left-hand side moving over, on an automated basis, either with a ZBA or an automated standing transfer over to a concentration account, and then funding to the right side, the vertical list of disbursement accounts would come from the concentration account in the middle, via some of those same mechanisms like ZBA or certain types of drawdown wires that may be put in place. And so that looks more like a butterfly. So we have a butterfly, an hourglass, then we've got the header account drawing where the cash sits at the top of the house.
It really explains kind of some of those details. I like the visual that you kind of explained out there, Craig. So then another one of my questions is, what are header accounts used for? And I feel like you've kind of given a little bit of that, but if you wanted to go into a bit of a deeper dive on that, that would be great. Yeah,
I guess for efficiency, I'd refer people to what are concentration accounts used for. But to summarize here, it's used as a cash mobilization or concentration account. This allows you to quickly see what cash you have for daily positioning, making your cash decisions to invest, borrow, or move funds. And it also helps with the, isolation activity, which we discussed in another podcast. This is, optimizing your cash position activity, or being able to identify discrepancies, from your forecast to your actual, so you can make your decisions for today. In other words, something happened a day early, so I need to remove that from my current projection for today, or it happened later, et cetera. I need to make an adjustment for it. It also helps on the better forecasting side. And that's all in addition, as I mentioned, to the ability to isolate activity, which allows you to spot anomalies, which could be errors or could be potential fraud.
Those are really all the questions that I had. So I'm just going to do a quick recap here of what are the header accounts. So really, you said it was more of a banking structure named used in Europe. So whether it's the top account where the money flows up or down from into those operating accounts. And again, you said the difference from the header account to the concentration account was really more so the regional naming conventions, because they both could be using ZBAs. They could both be used for to draw down or for investments, and really they're for cash mobilizations or to show us quick cash positions or for borrowing or moving funds and that sort of thing. But was there anything else that you wanted to add there, Craig, on our header accounts?
Well, I mainly wanted to ask for those listening, if you, I don't think there's going to be any disagreement on the macro comparison to the concentration account, naming convention. There are some other differences which, we consider relatively minor, but if anybody feels passionate about this and wants to bring up other points and sends a note in, we'd be happy to cover it in more detail. But, we just want to make sure we're covering this type of topic or these types of topic at the right level in the coffee break sessions. So feel free to send in differences or vent as you see fit, and we'll see if we get enough. We'll respond in some more detail there.
That's great. Thanks, Craig. And for those of you wanting to write in or vent, like Craig said, that can be done at podcast@strategictreasurer.com. So thanks, Craig, for joining me today and discussing what are header accounts. And thanks for all of our listeners for joining in. And don't forget to tune in every first and third Thursday of the month. And like we said, if you're interested in reaching out to us with either more feedback on this topic or other topics, you can send that email to podcast@strategictreasurer.com.
This podcast is provided for informational purposes only, and statements made by Strategic Treasurer LLC on this podcast are not intended as legal, business, consulting, or tax advice. For more information, visit and bookmark strategictreasurer.com.